This is the Heart of Disclosure. Welcome. I'm really pumped to bring this series to you guys. This is going to be a regular series on bringing the community more tools to deepen their own personal process of self-care. This is going to help all you guys to practice tools and explore concepts that help you to connect with your own heart in terms of the process of disclosure. I have so much to offer in this realm. I have been running a business teaching mindfulness and meditation and spiritual practices since 2009 now, and to direct this energy specifically towards disclosure is super exciting for me. So let's get into the three things that I'm really excited to focus on with you all right now. So firstly, I feel that it is very important to bring the disclosure, the truth community into a place where each of us as individuals is really deepening self-care in all the behavior that I see, the interactions in the community, the conflict and the shaming and just a lot of the interactions that are holding us back in terms of moving forward spiritually as a community, in terms of finding peace and unity and positive energy that will create the disclosure that we want. Self-care is so absent. From the work that I do with people in helping people to become calmer, more peaceful individuals through mindfulness, meditation, journaling, a lot of different self-care practices in that realm, I can see that a lot of the behavior that's arising in the community comes from pain, it comes from lack of self-awareness, it comes from lack of self-care and self-love. So this is a huge issue. And so I'm really happy to have the opportunity to speak to it. So let's start with that deepening of self-care. Self-care, when it is absent, manifests in our inability to peacefully interact with our community. This essentially arises because it disables our capacity to engage and support the community, because we are constantly trying to work through what we have not acknowledged in ourselves via other people. So it means your heart, as your innocence, as your inner child, let's say, is neglected. So you have a small child constantly tugging at your sleeve for attention. And as it is ignored, the only opportunity it has to find expression and to get attention is how it behaves with other people. So if we are neglecting our own hearts, then we are carrying that neglect and that need for our innocence to be validated into the community. So recognizing that you are a deeply innocent, vulnerable, fragile being at all times, that part of you is always present, is very important when we are managing disclosure as a community. Thinking that we're dealing with content that is highly emotionally charged, that there are articles and revelations that are coming out constantly that are teasing us in terms of our own freedom as a people, as humanity. We are deeply systematically oppressed. And so to be constantly tantalized with the feeling of a bigger picture that's about to emerge, and to be unable to obtain that, and to be constantly faced with confusion and often a lack of solid proof in the way that we want it, we're aggravated, we're oppressed. And this takes a lot of self-care to manage before we go into the community. So we have to become individuals that have a baseline of self-care that is much deeper than anything we have ever been taught in any kind of mainstream healthcare or educational system. Your baseline self-care has to be so thorough to be able to work with what's happening right now and to be able to engage the community under those conditions. So how far should self-care go so that we can become the peace we want to see? Well, basically, you want to take what you think is your normal calm state and go 100% further with it. Whatever you think is your normal everyday functioning state as you're engaging the disclosure community, as you're consuming this intense content and trying to figure out the bigger picture, and you might be debating and arguing with people who present things that you think are totally doing harm and are misleading, or muddying the waters, whatever it may be. You want to take whatever state you normally are in when you engage in those challenges, and you want to deepen the level of calm and peace, set a much higher standard for yourself through meditation, through mindfulness, through clean eating, and surrounding yourself with people and situations that are loving and supportive. That has to be so thoroughly emerged into our everyday lives before we can be responsible citizens in a community that is facing such an intense challenge as manifesting disclosure, a positive timeline, whatever you want to call it. And so this may mean a lot of people withdrawing for a time, and that's okay. So if you need to withdraw and go through a week, 2 weeks, a month of deep self-care so that you can come back to the community with your actual potential ignited, do it. Drop all the consumption of content, drop all the debates and the desire to push the truth forward. Yes, that's good, but if it's being done in an anxious state, you're sabotaging what you feel you should be doing. You are not emitting a frequency that is supporting the vision that you have for peace in the world. Let's move on. Okay, so let's continue with consuming content and applying discernment. So what state do we need to be in to do that? If adequate self-care is in place, then the intensity and excitement of what is occurring won't fuel anxiety, aggravation, and this desperate need for validation. So let's look at those three things: the anxiety, the aggravation, and the need for validation. So, as I said, in terms of anxiety in the community, what I have seen is 99% of the community is in an anxious state. Okay, so with the whole community living with this level of anxiety, but it being invisible to everyone, we're getting all these incoherent interactions occurring, and it's not really bringing us what we want. Our society as a whole sets a very, pathetically low bar in terms of how we should all feel on a day-to-day basis. I mean, we could each feel amazing, very calm, very centered, very energized, very clear, very loving. These are states that are our birthright. Okay, so understand that society, the civilization in which we exist, has set a ridiculously low bar so that people accept feeling generally kind of shitty all the time. And they perceive that to be normal. So that it's not seen as shitty, it's just how people feel. So the way that you can perceive it in trying to catch this happening would be like you're looking for micro-anxiety, micro-tensions in your body. For example, you can look for small amounts of tension that you're carrying in your throat, the muscles in your face, the way your tongue sits in your mouth, the muscles inside the back top of your mouth and in the back of your neck. This whole area often is kept very tense with these micro-anxieties. So when you want to discover these, look for these small bits of tension in your body that you carry every day, right? You can be fully relaxed most of the day. You should be, actually. Set that goal. It could take a long time, and that's okay. That's not your fault. You've been conditioned to be tense, just whack all the time. Not your fault. Not something that's wrong with you. It's you healing the society in which we live via your own body. So, next, once you have gone further than you absolutely think you should, okay? So once you have taken your self-care further and started to find these micro-anxieties and this state of tension and this high-intensity internal dialogue that's always going, once you've started to find that and learn to set a higher standard for how calm, for how carefully and consciously you're breathing and communicating, you can move into this aggravation. So we are all subjected to conditioning, which causes us to oppress ourselves. Let me say that again. The conditioning in which we exist makes it so that we are our own oppressors. We are not really, when we come down to the truth of the situation, being oppressed by higher forces. We are being tricked into oppressing ourselves. The truth of that empowers us because it means we are really the ones holding the key to our freedom, to truth, to disclosure, to peace. Okay, so really let that sink in, that your oppression happens via you. Okay? This is really just a surreptitious manipulation of free will. It's very tricky, very clever. Actually, respect to cabal and negative polarity individuals and beings, because they did it really well. Good for you. It's over now. You had a great turn. There's part of us that feels super aggravated. If we don't have knowledge of this persistent force that is causing us to oppress ourselves, then that's when we take it out into the community and we project onto other people. And so someone who triggers us, who puts forward a belief or a narrative that we disagree with, suddenly that feeling of oppression that we've been maintaining in ourselves via the manipulation that surrounds us, the frustration comes out on the people that we think are the source of it, and really they are not. They are not. The people that you think are promoting the wrong narrative, that are muddying the waters, that are trolls or disinformation agents, they are not creating your feeling of oppression, your frustration. You have been tricked into creating it in yourself. So this comes down to taking responsibility for our own state of being. Okay? This means lovingly taking responsibility for our own state of being every day, unconditionally, no matter what you are presented with by other people. Your state of being is your responsibility, and to own that is a very powerful thing. And for all of us as a community to own it will be supercharged. So understand that your state of being is your choice. And that will take time to land. It's a very skillful set of capacities to really start to live that. So I say it. It is a simple truth. But it will take time and care to develop it. Which is why I say if you need to take long breaks from the intensity of engaging this community and this content so you can bring your full self to it. Your state of being is your choice. Let's move on. Okay, here we are in the sort of final thought bubble that I want to explore with you in today's video. Seeking validation. This is a super important subject. We cannot be going into the community, into the world, trying to promote and engage and push for disclosure, if we are actually under the surface just seeking emotional validation? We cannot let that sabotage what this planet needs right now anymore. So no more seeking validation. Stop it. There are some ways to transform this tendency, this feeling. So the same energy of insecurity and desire to have someone praise us, to validate what we are feeling and believing, this can be transformed into humbleness. Okay? It is okay to feel small and at odds with the mystery of what is happening. It's okay to be confused. It is necessary and beautiful and powerful. You do not need other people to reinforce beliefs. You actually don't need belief or disbelief. Seek experience, direct experience, and trust your experience. Build trust in your experiences. And we're going to get more into that in other episodes. But you can revel in the confusion that this is all creating in you. You need it. So if someone is presenting something that confuses you or something that challenges what you felt was true, drop into that, okay? You don't need validation via shaming them. You don't need someone to come praise you for what you've posted, okay? This is super important. And so I know that sometimes people confuse the quest for validation with seeking support. And I understand this is a subtle difference. So let's clarify this here. Validation, when you're engaging the community, Facebook debating, YouTube, just chatting with a human on a train about aliens, whatever it is. Validation is asking someone to reinforce your limited notion of yourself. Okay? Seeking support or community is looking for a space or an individual that will unconditionally allow you and support you in moving beyond your conception of yourself. Okay? These are very different things. Validation is asking someone to reinforce your tiny little trapped version of yourself. And seeking support is looking for people that will help you move beyond your conception of yourself. They're very, very different things. So it's okay to seek support, but going into the community and seeking emotional validation is sabotaging our interactions. And we really, really need to do some self-care to stop that from happening. So I have a whole range of tools I'm going to get into to help with all of these things. This is just the beginning of what I'm offering, but that is the gist of where we're going to start today in the heart of disclosure. So thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more. Bye-bye.